This program is brought to you by Link TV for educational and non-commercial use only. Mosaic, a daily news program from Link TV, presents a selection of news reports from independent and state-controlled broadcasters from throughout the Middle East.
ننتقل الآن إلى الملف الفلسطيني حيث أصيبت امرأة إسرائيلية.
An Israeli woman was wounded after a Palestinian-made missile was launched into Israel. According to Israeli sources, the woman sustained moderate injuries. A series of homemade missiles were launched from the Gaza Strip into nearby Israeli targets, causing minor property damage.
In another development, the Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas asked his Interior Minister Hani Qawasmi to immediately implement the security plan, which intends to put an end to Palestinian lawlessness. According to the spokesman for the Palestinian Presidential Office, Abbas expressed support to Qawasmi and said that it is very important to give the Interior Minister all what he needs in order to restore order, maintain security, and enforce the law. In a meeting that was presided over by the Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas and his Prime Minister Ismail Haniyeh, Hamas and Fatah agreed to hold periodic meetings to discuss stalled issues. The two factions, which confirmed that they are committed to the Mecca Agreement, discussed several outstanding issues, including political power sharing, national reconciliation, as well as the cooling-off period.
Israel's Prime Minister Ehud Olmert is getting ready to meet with his security cabinet to work out the final details of a military plan that will pave the way for an imminent offensive in the Gaza Strip. This news comes amidst a showdown in the Israeli Military Command Center, which is scrambling for a solution to end the cross-border rocket launching from the Gaza Strip. While some military leaders want to launch a wide-scale offensive in the Gaza Strip, others warned against a military action at this time. Meanwhile, Olmert tried to win the support of his foreign minister, Zivi Livni, who has complained over excluding her government from taking part in important military decisions. In addition, Olmert said that his army plans to carry out a wide-scale offensive in the Gaza Strip, but so far he managed to hold it back. In a meeting with visiting foreign ministers, Olmert and Livni warned against the fragile situation in the region and said if the Palestinians continue to launch missiles, Israel has no choice but to move into the Gaza Strip militarily and on a wide scale. Some Israeli political institutions caution that if Israel carries out an offensive in the Gaza Strip, a second Vinograd report will then force Olmert to resign. This offensive, if carried out, will not offset Olmert's failure in the war on Lebanon. On the contrary, it will deepen the crisis inside his cabinet and make him miss on an opportunity to rescue the Israeli kidnapped soldier through political negotiations. The showdown inside Israel took a turn for the worse in the aftermath of these falling Palestinian missiles, which caused minor injuries and property damage. The Israeli army submitted 5 plans to the political leadership inside the cabinet. In one of the plans, the head of the Israeli Army Southern Command calls for building a security zone inside the Gaza Strip. The plan also calls on Israel to escalate its military response against the launch of Palestinian missiles, intensify its assassination campaign, strengthen its intelligence activities, and destroy Palestinian tunnels. Meanwhile, in the occupied territories, tension is running high in the aftermath of a series of assassinations that targeted Palestinian activists. The latest was the assassination of Palestinian activists from the Jerusalem Brigades, the military wing of the Islamic Jihad in Jenin. Although the area behind me may look deserted for now, this does not mean that Israel is not planning to carry out an offensive in the Gaza Strip. One thing is for sure, the situation is still subject to further deterioration and escalation in light of the many plans and campaigns underway inside Israel.
من الجانب الإسرائيلي للحدود مع قطاع غزة.
In our top story, the Hamas military wing today threatened to kill kidnapped IDF soldier Gilad Shalit if the army enters Gaza. The threat was posted on the Palestinian Al-Madar website. However, Hamas officials later denied they ever made such a proclamation. Hamas also threatened to launch a war against the IDF if it invades the Gaza Strip. Meanwhile, Palestinians fired 2 Qassam rockets at southern Israel today. No injuries were reported. IBA's Eli Wogelanter has this report.
Today's launch of a Qassam rocket into southern Israel follows an increase of chaos occurring across the Gaza Strip and more saber rattling on both sides of the fence. Yesterday afternoon, an Israeli aircraft fired rockets at a car carrying Palestinian terrorists who were preparing to launch rockets into Israel. Islamic Jihad said 2 of its members were in the car near Beit Hanun on the way to carrying out the jihadi mission. 1 bystander was injured in the strike. The aerial attack follows a warning by Prime Minister Ehud Olmert that Israel would take action if Palestinian terrorists continued firing rockets into Israel from Gaza. Olmert's warning followed a rocket attack from Gaza yesterday morning, which landed near a nursery in Sderot. Islamic Jihad claimed responsibility for that attack as well. And there are conflicting reports today from Hamas, which, according to Israel Radio, threatened to kill kidnapped soldier Gilad Shalit and counterattack against Israel if the IDF entered Gaza. Hamas sources later denied any such threat. Meanwhile, religious secular intra-Palestinian clashes are adding to the chaotic condition inside the Gaza Strip. In Rafah on Sunday, a bodyguard of a local Fatah leader was killed, and 8 other people, including 2 school children, were wounded after gunmen opened fire at a sports day celebration at an elementary school operated by the UN. The gunmen were reportedly angered because boys and girls were participating together. UN Secretary General Ban Ki-moon called on the PA government, quote, to exercise its responsibility to ensure law and order, including the protection of humanitarian organizations such as UNRWA that delivers vital services to the people of Gaza. Eli Wogelanter, IBA News.
Joining us now in our Tel Aviv studio to discuss diplomatic and military developments is former advisor to Prime Minister Ariel Sharon, Dr. Ra'anan Gissin. Dr. Gissin, welcome.
Good evening.
Secretary of State Condoleezza Rice canceled her visit to Israel at the last moment, an unprecedented move. The State Department says it's because of political problems here in Israel, the whole morass of the Winograd findings. So it seems that the U.S. is now treating the Olmert government as a lame duck, is it not?
Well, I think there's no doubt that the government of Israel right now, particularly the Prime Minister, find itself between a rock and a hard spot, if you want. There's no doubt that in order to initiate either a political move or take a necessary military action in Gaza, which is time is running out on that, you need the trust of the people. You need the mandate from the people. And I think what happened is that the American administration, the U.S. administration, and Secretary of State Condoleezza Rice reads the internal political map of Israel probably much better than she reads the overall map of the Middle East. And she thinks that the Saudi initiative, which is another, I would say, a code name to say creating a consensus among moderate Arab countries, must require some stability here in the region and for Israel to pay the price. And I don't think the government of Israel can afford it right now, particularly without that kind of support, and with the continuous falling of Qassam rockets, which requires sooner or later, I think sooner, a military action.
You just mentioned the Qassam rocket attacks. The head of the Southern Command, Major General Yoav Gallant, has come up with a plan designed to curtail the Qassam rocket fire from Gaza. Any chance at all that this can succeed? Where other plans have failed? And is there the political will at this time to carry that out?
Well, let's separate two issues here. I think the Army has the plans. The Army has the contingency plans. The Army can present to the government various alternatives of what needs to be done. And even when you talk about surgical strikes against Hamas, I think the Army has the plan. The question is whether there is the political will, but more than that, whether there is the mandate to do it. The last thing that Israel can do right now is quarrel with the United States over the proposed plan, for example, of the safe passage, and let's say the efforts of the United States to restart the political process through, let's say, the Saudi initiative. There's a bigger picture here. There's a bigger game that the United States is playing, and unfortunately, Israel is required to pay the price. Had there been a stronger government and a government that enjoys the support of the people and the support of the public, it could take, I would say, unpopular moves. It could take moves that require, let's say, even some form of standing up against the United States and standing for Israel's security. But at the present stage, unfortunately, I think the post-Vinaigrette trauma, the post-Lebanon trauma that the government suffers, forces it to concentrate most of its effort on survival, and almost none is left to initiate such moves that will take it out of this very difficult position that it finds itself right now.
Dr. Raanan Giesin, thank you very much for joining us and sharing your insight with us today.
Thank you.
With the summer season at the doors, a 100-day truce is expected to take place in Lebanon between June 1st and September 10th, an initiative launched by the Economic and Labor Committees in Lebanon in order to help recover the country's ailing economy.
With the Hezbollah-led opposition's open-ended sit-in still ongoing in downtown Beirut, the Economic and Labor Committees launched a new initiative to salvage the country from further economic collapse, a 100-day truce. The summer season is at the doors, and in order not to lose its benefits, as what happened last year as a result of the July war, the Economic and Labor Committees both called for the truce to start as of June 1st and end on September 10th. The president of the Union of the Chamber of Commerce, Trade and Agriculture, Ghazi Quraitim, said that the 100-day truce is aimed at motivating the country leaders to return to dialogue. He said that all parties must be aware that the country is standing on a cliff, urging them to deploy all possible efforts to save it. He stressed accepting the truce would have many positive consequences. Quraitim declared that all unions, committees and syndicates will be invited to a conference expected to be held within a week to launch a cry of awareness. The president of the Chamber of Commerce, however, showed optimism as all different parties welcome the initiative. A new summer season is near, and the Lebanese are once again hopeful that they may reap benefits, hoping to compensate for the loss they have sustained since the start of the country's political deadlock.
France's president-elect, Nicolas Sarkozy, is on a 3-day vacation on the Mediterranean island of Malta. The blue sky and the relaxing resorts there were the best way for Sarkozy to forget about the rising tensions in some of Paris's suburbs. Hundreds of cars were burnt and hundreds of protesters were arrested. This time, however, the protesters from the suburbs were joined by French leftists. We leave you with Mohamed Ouamoussi from Barbès neighborhood in Paris.
This is how the Barbès neighborhood in Paris looked 2 days after Sarkozy's victory. Anger can be felt here in this neighborhood, which is mainly inhabited by Arab and Muslim immigrants. Sarkozy had a bad record in this neighborhood since he was Interior Minister. The votes of these residents were not enough to help Ségolène Royal win, although she was viewed as the lesser of the two evils. Everyone in Barbès wanted to express their opinion. The microphone of Dubai television was not sufficient to accommodate all those who wanted to criticize the new resident of the Élysée Palace.
Change will only happen for the French. Nothing will change for the Arabs. When Sarkozy was the Interior Minister, he took anti-Arab positions.
He is racist, but he does not show his racism. At least Le Pen does not hide his racism. Sarkozy hides his racism against us.
It is not a surprise that somebody has used his artistic brush to alter Sarkozy's election poster to look like a French Hitler. Next to these election posters, one can see posters calling on people to vote for an Arab candidate in the upcoming round of elections. This made us feel as if we were in a different continent. The residents of Paris suburbs go as far as to follow Sarkozy's news as it is portrayed in newspapers that come from across apostasy.
I voted against Sarkozy because I do not want a French government that divides the society based on ethnicities and color and takes anti-immigrant positions.
In the past 2 days, more than 700 cars were torched and hundreds of protesters were arrested. This scene has reflected people's fears of a president who may rule France with an iron fist. Sarkozy did not have harmonious relations with the Muslims during his election campaign. He actually said that they slaughter sheep in their bathtubs. Will Sarkozy extend his hand to the French Muslims, or will he continue to play a tug of war with them, since he is now the new leader in the Élysée Palace?
In Iraq, the Sadr faction, headed by Muqtada Sadr, is implementing a reform and reconciliation plan, as he called it, that aims to resume the faction's national role. Sadr is expected to distance himself from the leaders in the Mahdi army who are involved in the sectarian conflict. Those close to Sadr who are behind the scenes say that there are intentions to withdraw from the Shiite alliance because of critical differences between the two sides. Meanwhile, a number of Sadr faction loyalists contacted many Sunni leaders in Iraq and abroad to assist in reaching a settlement with the government. For more details, joining us from Baghdad is Abdel Mehdi al-Metieri, a member of the political arm of the Sadr faction. So what about the rumors that you were in contact with the Sunni leadership, either within Iraq or abroad?
Actually, we've had meetings with Sunni leaders at the political and religious levels. Many meetings took place in recent days. However, for now, we are not able to talk about these meetings in order to allow this process to succeed, God willing.
Will there be withdrawal from the Shiite alliance?
We are not seriously thinking about withdrawing from the Shiite alliance. However, if the Shiite alliance does not fulfill our demands to be included in securing Iraq, then we will have some other words for them.
That was Abdel Mehdi al-Metieri from Baghdad, a member of the political arm of the Sadr faction. Thank you.
ميدانيا أفاد مراسل العربية أن شخصا قتل وجرح 3 في قصف أصاب مصنعا في بغداد وقتل شرطيان وأصيب 20.
On the ground, an Arabiya correspondent reported that 1 person was killed and 3 others were injured in a bombing that targeted a factory in Baghdad. 2 policemen were killed and 20 others were injured when a suicide bomber detonated his explosive belt. He targeted a police station in the Jola town in the Diyala province. The bloodiest attacks were in Kufa, where an Iraqi medical source said 16 people were killed and nearly 40 others were injured by a booby-trapped car explosion near a restaurant in the city of Kufa, near Najaf. One of the eyewitnesses confirmed the attacker was driving a small bus. A security source said that the explosion went off in a crowded area in the center of the city. A statement from the office of Iraqi Vice President Tariq al-Hashimi confirmed that yesterday evening, Hashimi met with Prime Minister Nouri al-Maliki after a period of no contact that lasted for weeks. They debated ways to continue the political process on the right path. The statement also stated that they discussed and reviewed security and political files, as well as means for them to manage these files in a way that guarantees that the political process continues in the right direction. In Washington, the White House issued warnings that the U.S. Army will sustain major losses after a decision to purge the most difficult neighborhoods of armed fighters in various Iraqi cities. Meanwhile, the U.S. Army announced that Colonel Billy Don Ferris was shot and injured while supervising his unit, which is building a wall in the Athamiya neighborhood in the Iraqi capital, Baghdad.
بناء الجدار حول حي الأعظمية في العاصمة العراقية بغداد.
مجددا لا يزال حوارنا مع الحارس الشخصي لأسامة بن لادن أبو جندل ناصر أحمد ناصر.
We continue our interview with Nasser Ahmad Nasser Bahri, also known as Abu Jandal, the former bodyguard of Al-Qaeda's leader Osama bin Laden. Mr. Bahri, before the break, we talked about Al-Qaeda organization and its Egyptian-dominated leadership. We talked briefly about the U.S. investigation and the types of questions asked by the FBI. You mentioned that you were also interrogated by the Yemeni Authority. Can you explain the method of interrogation used by the FBI as opposed to the one used by the Yemenis?
I do not think there was much difference between the two agencies. Having said that, the Yemenis focused their investigation on the issue of homeland security. The Yemeni Authority and government believe that they cannot provide protection for the United States outside their country. The United States does not enjoy support in the region due to its unfair policy, and therefore it would be difficult for Yemen to defend it and protect its interests. The Yemeni Authority wants to secure the country nationally, and therefore it focused on issues of homeland security. In doing so, it investigated several organizations and groups, including sleeping cells in the country. Personally, my relationship with the Yemenis was not that strong. Yemen was like a transit hub for me.
Also, were you not born and raised in Yemen?
I was not connected in any way to the Yemeni group, and my position in Yemen was weak. Consequently, the Yemeni authorities did not gain anything as a result of this investigation.
How about the Americans? Did they gain anything as a result of this investigation?
This is a different story. To start with, the Americans are the enemy. They wanted to gather information on the organization. They asked me for information because, in their view, I was the personal bodyguard of bin Laden, and I was classified as a second-generation leader in Al-Qaeda's hierarchy.
Were you classified as such?
No, this was an American classification. Let them say whatever they want to say.
But I am asking you the question, were you a leader from the second-generation command?
No, I do not consider myself as a leader. I am a soldier and I do what I am told. It does not matter whether I was assigned as head of the army or as its cook. I do what I am told. But if the Americans want to classify me as a leader from the second generation, let them do that.
So they questioned you about your affiliation with Al-Qaeda?
Yes, I did not provide them with any information on the organization because, frankly, I do not have it. My only duty was to guard Osama bin Laden. And in doing so, if I get killed, I will not be held accountable before God. Praise the Lord.
How many hours did the Americans interrogate you?
They have questioned me for nearly 20 or 25 days. For nearly a month, they brought me to an interrogation room and questioned me for 9 hours, from the afternoon prayers until midnight. The Americans sometimes engaged in provocative techniques during questioning. This is when I ended the interrogation.
What did they do to intimidate you?
They tried to intimidate me by calling me derogatory names or insulting my religion. I told them I could tolerate anything, but not to insult my religion.
Did you end the interrogation after they called you names and insulted your religion?
Yes, every time they insulted my religion, I would stop cooperating with them. I would remain silent for days, and there is nothing they could do to make me cooperate with them.
How many detectives were in the interrogating room?
There were 2, but later they were joined by a 3rd one.
Were they all men, or were there female detectives too?
No, they were all male detectives.
Did they speak Arabic?
Yes, 2 are Lebanese and 1 is Irish, who learned to speak Arabic in Syria.
Were they all military personnel?
Yes, they were federal agents, FBI.
The deteriorating security situation in Iraq has forced many Iraqis to leave their country to look for safety in neighboring countries. The High Commission for Refugees estimates that nearly 40,000 Iraqis flee to Syria every month. Officials from the international body complain that they do not have the necessary financial resources to alleviate the suffering of these refugees, who are numbered at more than 2 million.
The drama of Iraqis escaping from the sectarian violence in Iraq continues without any end in sight. The final episode will be written by the Iraqi institutions and the United States occupation forces. In an Iraqi refugee registration center erected by the High Commission for Refugee Affairs on the outskirts of Damascus, an image of these refugees suffering emerges. They have waited in long lines to record their names and to receive support, even if just a little, from international international organizations.
We don't want anything except for the Iraqi people to be comfortable, wherever they are in the world. What is important is that they are comfortable and find sustenance.
We are asking the High Commission to treat us with decency and humanity, just as they treated the Somalis.
I have a daughter who is sick. She has cancer. They don't want to help her. The other one needs to have an operation. I brought both of their ID cards so we can get help.
After the end of the Sharm el-Sheikh Iraqi Neighbors Conference, as well as the Geneva Conference, which shed light on the suffering of 2 million Iraqi refugees, the High Commission is focusing on the need to draw the world's attention to help the displaced Iraqis. It estimates that nearly 40,000 Iraqis flee to Syria every month. The number of displaced Iraqis in Syria is more than 1.5 million. As a result, the Syrian government and citizens have had to increase their services. This has cost the Syrian government $1 billion annually.
We basically have to focus on supporting Iraq's neighboring countries and look for ways to help the 2 million Iraqi refugees who have fled their country.
A conference was held, but until now the international community has yet to move. We hope that the international community carefully considers this a humanitarian catastrophe.
وشكت المفوضية العليا من أن أوضاع شريحة كبيرة من اللاجئين.
The High Commission complained that a large number of refugees are living in deteriorating conditions and that a large segment of them suffer from extreme poverty and severe deprivation. Awaiting the fulfillment of many promises and pledges made by the donor parties, the Iraqi refugees continue to suffer. The refugees are currently asking the Maliki government to return security to Iraq after it sent $25 million to Syria to distribute to them.
In the name of God, the compassionate, the merciful, thanks for joining us. This is JNN English News and I'm Fariba Wahid in Tehran. Islamic Revolution leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei told visiting Tajik President Imam Ali Rahmanov Tuesday more solidarity among Persian-speaking countries is the driving force behind efforts to bolster their potential. The leader said the world of Islam can rev up its drive for progress and development if and when Muslim unity becomes something within reach. Ayatollah Khamenei said Tajikistan is an intrinsic part of the Iranian culture, adding Tehran's foreign policy attaches great significance to cultivation of ties with Dushanbe. Presidents of Iran and Tajikistan chaired the first round of joint high-level talks early Tuesday. President Ahmadinejad said energy industry, transport, road making, water transfer, trade and culture are the proving ground for the two nations to boost ties. He added Tehran welcomes any idea which brings the formation of regional cooperation organizations. In turn, President Rahmanov said his country asks for joint ventures and economic projects with Iran.
The views expressed on Mosaic are those of the participating broadcasters, not Link TV or its sponsors. Please visit linktv.org/Mosaic for more information about these broadcasters or to view previous Mosaic programs, obtain program transcripts, or receive the weekly Mosaic Intelligence Report. Mosaic is made possible by a grant from the William and Flora Hewlett Foundation. Additional support is provided by the Firedoll Foundation, the Otto Haas Charitable Trust, and by committed Link TV viewers like you.
Is this the Iraq war you never see on American TV? Unfiltered, uncensored, unafraid to venture into uncharted territory? Now you can play an important role in keeping this Peabody Award-winning news digest on the air, delivering cutting-edge news from the Middle East. Become a member of the Mosaic Club today. From the basic membership to the producer circle, each level comes with unique gifts and privileges, including the Mosaic tote bag, and a weekly subscription to the Mosaic Intelligence Report, an e-letter highlighting the week's events in the region. Some members will receive a DVD of Occupied Minds, a journey into the heart of Israel and Palestine, or will recognize your important role by putting your name in the show credits. Some memberships include a tour of Link TV studios in San Francisco, invitations to special events, and lunch with Mosaic's producer. Join the Mosaic team. Help keep critical news from the Middle East on the air. Just log on to www.linktv.org/Mosaic Club to learn how you can join the Mosaic Club today.
This program was brought to you by Link TV for educational and non-commercial use only.